Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Are we good? I talk very loud, I apologize. I also recognize that I'm right after lunch, so I'm gonna try to keep things entertaining. As we mentioned, I'm Nicole Watson. I am a senior product marketing manager at Salesforce. And I wanna start to talk about who we are. You may have heard of us, you may currently be using us, you may, ooh, spoiler alert. We are a cloud-based software company, and we build products that connect businesses to their customers. And we do that with lots of different products. So our most popular product was the one that we started with 20 years ago, our CRM, Sales Cloud. But since then, we've built even more products, and we've actually acquired quite a few as well. So you may be familiar with Slack or MuleSoft or Tableau. We've added those products to our portfolio, and we also have 13 industries. So I want to call that out too, these lovely little graphics at the top. And our industry product marketing teams take our products, both these cloud products that you see on this lovely wheel, as well as purpose-built products specifically for industries. So a couple of examples are automotive, financial services, media. I work in our nonprofit industry, so all the way at the top here, and I work with our nonprofit customers to bring all of our products to market. And as a product marketer, you're probably seeing this slide and going, oh my gosh, that is a lot of products, and you are right. As you can see, we have a lot of different products, and we have different PMMs working on all of these products, industries, to bring them to market. And we do that with a global team. So we have 3 regions. The first is our EMEA region, which we are located in currently right now, and that makes up our North America, South America. You'll see all these little dots where our regional offices are. We also have EMEA, and that is our Europe, Middle East, and Africa region. And then last but not least, we have APAC, which is Asia Pacific, as well as Australia. And so we have these 3 global regions where we take all of those products that you just saw on the slide before, we take those to market. So that is what I'm gonna talk to you about today. And I wanna take a pause here, because I recognize that we are a very large company. You saw all those products. We are a massive enterprise company. I recognize that not all of you are in that position, so I tried to frame this in a way that whether you're already global or you're thinking about it, at some point in your career, you're going to go global. So that's the way that I broke this up. The first part, I'll tell you how to build a global go-to-market plan, and then the second part, I'll talk to you about how to work together as a global team, and then I'll share how we built our go-to-market plan so you can see some examples. So first, you have to start from scratch. You can't go into this thinking, okay, I'm going to take my go-to-market plan and I'm just gonna copy and paste, rinse and repeat to all these different countries. You are likely going to fail if that's how you go into it, and I'm gonna be really honest, I actually thought that's what we did. I thought, okay, we just took one go-to-market plan and copied and pasted into the UK or in Ireland, and that was not the case. First, start to think about your market awareness. This is a big one. So you really do have to start from scratch. Think about the way that the market knows about you. So we, for example, with our industry, we were pretty well known with our nonprofit customers here in the States. But what we noticed was when we went to other countries, market awareness varied. So for example, in the UK, our customers were pretty familiar with us. They had heard about us. But then when we looked at Germany or the Netherlands, it was really, really low and almost non-existent. So you really have to take a look at that, as well as market readiness. Before you launch your product or your company in another country, you have to make sure that you're ready. We have a team that works closely together to make sure that everything's in place, so that way our launches are going to be successful. Next, these last 2, I'm gonna bucket them together, but take a look at your competition and your pricing. That's obviously going to vary based on the country, and that's gonna change your go-to-market. Your pricing is likely gonna be different based off of different currencies. So you'll wanna take a look at those and make sure that you have a good understanding of that. So especially for competition, when you're thinking about your messaging, you wanna make sure that you're able to take those pieces and then apply that to your go-to-market plan. And next, you have to understand the nuances. I think we brought this up. I think, Priyanka, you mentioned that a little bit earlier. There are going to be many nuances when you look at different countries. The first of which, languages. There's going to be different languages. You want to make sure that you're taking a look at how prevalent is English? Is English, do 90% of the people in the country speak it? Or is that not the case? Because that's going to determine how you build out your go-to-market strategy. The next one is fun, government, laws. Taking a look at the different regions and are there certain things that you need to be aware of? GDPR is a great example in the EU where they rolled that out and it changed the way that marketers engaged with the people that we were trying to have conversations with. Here in the States, it's a little bit different. So knowing those different nuances, and especially for our market, we work with nonprofits, government is different. Like delivering services in the States is very different, especially when you think about healthcare. Whereas in the UK and other countries, it's very different. So you'll want to take a look at that. The next thing is cultures. This is a big one. You want to make sure that you're being respectful. Definitely take a look, make sure that the words that you're using, the culture, make sure that you're respectful because you're going to lose a lot of trust if you go into a new market and you didn't do your research. So take a look at that. And similar to that is naming. So words. Words are going to be very different. Even in English-speaking countries. I have some fun here. I know that we just ate, so I'm sorry for throwing up some food, but this lovely potato delicacy. Raise your hand if you call these fries. Okay. Raise your hand if you call it something different. Okay, a couple of you. So here in the States, we call these fries. But outside of the States, they call these chips, which is really confusing because we call these chips, but they're called crisps in other countries. So it's super confusing. If you go overseas and you ask for fish and chips and you're expecting to see these potato chips, you're actually going to get the fries. So this is a fun example of naming. I'll give you a real life example. So as I mentioned, we work with our nonprofit customers. And one of the markets that we work with are what are called human service organizations. So think about nonprofits that are working with children in foster care or people experiencing homelessness or food delivery like food banks. We noticed that as we were talking to our customers, the words that our customers used to describe their customer varied based on the country. So for example, when we were talking to our customers here in America, we noticed they called them clients, right? They were delivering food to their clients. They were helping their clients who were children navigate the child welfare system. Well, when we went outside and we were looking at the UK or in France, we noticed they called them service users. And what we also noticed was those two words were not interchangeable. So when we use the word service user here in the States, our customers were like, that sounds like I'm calling AT&T, T-Mobile, whoever you use, I am a customer service person. That's what we associated that word with. And on the flip side, when our customers in EMEA heard clients, they thought, well, if you go to a bank, that's a client. That creates challenges for us. So as a team, we had to take a step back and think about when does it make sense to use different words in your content? And it's very, you have to know this because, again, you want to speak the language of the customers, you want to be respectful, you also want to build their trust. We also use this knowledge to share with our other teams. So we do a lot of research. We also collect all the feedback from our customers. I love that we were talking about CABs earlier. Sorry to use an acronym. But we take all of that knowledge and we actually share that with our teams. So we'll share that with our sales teams to say, hey, look, when you're talking to these customers, these are the words that you want to use. This is the word that they use to describe their customer. We also share it with our content team that's working on blogs. So that way, whenever we're creating content, we're making sure that the words that we use resonate for each of those individual markets. So once you understand the market, you know where you're going, you're ready to go, it's important to have the right team in place. And this is really important. you're gonna wanna make sure that you have a product marketing manager either in the location of the country that you're expanding to or close by. And the reason is because of time zones, right? A PMM here in Texas, it's gonna be really hard for them to support a launch in Australia. The time zone alone is gonna be really, really hard, right? I think when I did an enablement session for our APAC team one time, it was 8 p.m. here, and I had to turn on all my lights because I think it was like 9 a.m. their time, and I wanted to, I didn't want them to think that I was in a dungeon. That's not feasible in the long term. So you'll definitely want to make sure that you have a PMM. The other thing is languages. You'll want to make sure that you have someone on your team that speaks the language, even if it's English, right? Because as I just showed you, even English to English, we use different words for things. And so if they speak a completely different language, this is even more important. If you're expanding into Germany, you need to have someone that speaks German. I'm gonna steal a phrase from one of my EMEA colleagues because she nailed this. She said, language equals trust. If you're not speaking the language, you're not gonna gain their trust. And so this is super important. I wanna really highlight this. I probably should have added some animation. The boots on the ground, they literally need to speak the language, both figuratively and literally. And if it's not possible to have an actual full-time employee, look at hiring a contractor, seeing how you can get started and take baby steps. And speaking of baby steps, do not rush it. Remember, this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. You have to be realistic before you launch your products into a different market because it's going to take a lot of time. As I mentioned, you have to do a lot of research. You have to really understand these markets. Resources is another thing. One thing to think about is you don't have to do all of the things all at once, right? Like you can say, I want to go into Europe. Well, don't go into every single country. Maybe start with 2 that strategically make the most sense. You want to make sure that you're being strategic because you also want to be successful. You don't want to try to do too much, bite off too much. We have 4 PMMs on our team that cover all of EMEA. And 4 might seem like a lot, but they also have to scale back because it's only feasible for them to do so much in the day. And so what we do is we actually are strategic with the countries, not the companies, the countries that we reach out to. So it's important to understand those different things because you'll want to make sure that you can fully invest, right? There's so many pieces, sales enablement, having salespeople, there's so many pieces that go into that. You have to make sure that you're ready before you actually do that. So now you have all the pieces into place, you're ready to optimize your dream team. I love GIFs, by the way, I had to throw a couple in there. Now that you have all those things in place, how do you work together in a way that is great for everyone? And we, as I mentioned, my PMM team, we have some PMMs in EMEA. We actually have PMMs in 5 different countries across 6 different time zones, which is a lot. So we've come up with some ways that really work really well for us on how we work together as a global team. So I'd love to share some of those tips with you. The first is time zones. I mentioned that, right? This is probably the hardest piece about working with a global team. As I mentioned, our team is across 6 different time zones. We found that there's really only 2 hours per day that really make sense. Those are like our 2 golden hours where it's not too early for our West Coast team, but it's not too late for our EMEA team. So it's important to work with your team to figure out what preferences are because some people, like me, I am not a morning person, so I would prefer later in the afternoon. But some people may not. They might actually prefer, something different. So understanding those pieces is going to really help you to understand. And then you're also going to want to be sensitive about meetings. As I mentioned, we have a large global team. Our products team is actually here in the States, and so a lot of times we have meetings that are out of our control that are later in the day. And it might be like 8 or 9 p.m. I've even seen some where it's like 11 p.m. in the UK. Figure out how to make that work. Like, can you reschedule a meeting? If it's a meeting with 30 plus people, probably not. Maybe send a proxy, so that way you have one person from your team that can go, that can represent everyone, while not, forcing your employee or your teammate to work really late or really early too. The other thing I try to do is be very sensitive about when I send communication because of those time zones. What's nice is a lot of tools these days allow you to schedule send your messages. So I know email, like Google, Outlook, they both allow you to schedule send. We obviously use Slack. What I love about Slack is it does the math for you. I'm not a math person. I can say I want this to go at 9 a.m. their time, and it figures out the time zones for you. I can tell you that I witnessed this firsthand last year. I went to our London office, and I worked from London for a week. And I noticed that right around the 4 p.m. time frame, my Slack messages started to really, really increase. When I was ready to wrap up at 5 p.m., I was like, all right, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go have fun in London. Ding, ding, ding. Because all of my team members in California were waking up, and they were catching up. And it gave me a lot of anxiety. I felt like, oh gosh, I have to answer these. I have to be on top of it. And then I realized that's what our EMEA colleagues feel whenever we send them messages. And so I really try to be respectful of that. And then it also ties into communication. I mentioned earlier, if you can't have your team members attend a meeting, send a proxy. But also make sure that you keep everyone up to date. I don't know about y'all, but our company moves very, very fast. So things change very fast. And as I mentioned, our products team is here in the States. So if we update roadmap or we make a big decision about a change for a launch, we have to update everyone because we want to make sure that all the teams are on the same page. So definitely make sure that everyone is up to speed and keep that communication going. And then lastly, work smarter, work together. You have a team all over that are likely going to be working on the same products, on the same industries. Collaborate together. My teammate that works at EMEA, she's my counterpart. We cover the same products, the same buyer personas. We actually piggyback on content. So for example, if I'm working on a demo, I work with her. Like, how can we make this a global piece of content? If I work on a webinar that's maybe featuring 3 customers, how can I take that template, give it to her, so she can find 3 customers in EMEA, find a time that works for them, and then just rinse and repeat, and vice versa. She shares content with me all the time. So really take advantage of that, and that's how you're also going to expand the amount of content, because again, there's only so much that we can do in a day. This is how you can help scale that. So I've walked you through kind of what that looks like. Now I'm gonna share how our team builds out our go-to-market plan and how we scale it globally. So we start with our industry trends. So we take a look at the market, we see what's happening, what are the economic windfall, what are the challenges, what are the things that are really creating these pain points for our customers, and we also look at that globally, and we try to figure out where there's some synergies, and we take that and we use that as our starting place. And then we create our strategy. We call these our big bets. So based off of these industry trends, how are we going to build our strategy to address those challenges, to help our customers see how our technology, how our products are going to help solve for these industry trends? So we take a look at a team, and we also, again, we're realistic. We can't do all of the things. So what are the 3, 5, 6, whatever that looks like, what are those top strategic bets that we can make as a team? And then this is where we break off into the regional tactics. So going back to the market awareness, for example, there are, in certain countries, as I mentioned, our market awareness is very, in some cases it doesn't exist. So taking a look at where you need to spend time on the funnel, because maybe you're gonna be spending more time on the top of funnel content to help build awareness, or maybe awareness isn't an issue, so you need really more of that bottom of the funnel content to help our sellers sell. This is where we start to break things up into regions. So as I mentioned before, I really thought that we did everything for all of our countries. Not true. This is where we actually see that in action. But again, some of that is actually horizontal, because as I mentioned, We take a look at our content and we see how we can stretch it across all the different countries, so demo videos, blog posts, research, white papers. We take a look at all of those things and see also how we can spread things out horizontally. What we found is by doing this, and we actually start really early. So our fiscal year starts in February. We start this process in early October. And what we found is by starting early, we also bring in other stakeholders. So we bring in our sales leaders, our enablement leaders. We bring in all of our key stakeholders, and we involve them in this process. We get their feedback. Does this resonate with you? What are your thoughts on this? And we found that by doing that, I know this was a question in the very first session, we found that by doing that, it makes alignment so much easier. We actually noticed last year that our sales leaders, when we saw their plan, we were like, those are our words. They took what we created, and that makes it so much easier to work together and get that internal buy-in. So this is the way that we look at things, and it's obviously a very high-level look, but we found that by approaching it this way, we gain a lot of internal alignment and buy-in, which makes things so much easier for the rest of the fiscal year. So that is what I have today. Thank you so much. Here's my contact info. I'll be around. Let's
hold
see
the clap.
We're
going to do questions. I mean, she gets a double clap at the end, but questions. So what's the most challenging country region that you've entered in your experience?
Oh gosh, that's a good one. I'm gonna be honest, our EMEA team can probably answer better. I'm gonna take the softball answer and say it was probably the first one that we did because we probably learned a lot of lessons about what worked. So that way we could go back to the drawing board and make sure that we don't repeat those same mistakes.
Okay, we're gonna address the elephant in the room, which is that everyone saw that slide. I mean, okay, give us the scoop, Nicole. Like, how do you guys orient by product, by region, lifecycle combination?
Yeah.
Is it product marketing even segmented down from that?
Yeah. If I can go back to my slide, I'm a visual person. I can go back. It's not letting me.
We all remember what it looks like. It was painful. I'm so sorry for you.
There's
but
a lot.
Tell us more.
Yes. So we're kind of bucketed in different ways. So as I mentioned, I'm what's considered an industry product marketing manager. So we have a team that works. So mine is a nonprofit industry. All those other the 12 other ones that make up our 13 industries, they have product marketing teams for those industries. And the way that we look at that is we take a look at all of those core cloud products and how do we take those and put our industry use case for them. So how do we take Sales Cloud? So for example, for us, nonprofits, they're not selling things, but they are raising money. So we kind of take a look at those products and create use cases. We also have our own purpose-built products that we manage. So for example, I have, our team is chopped up into what we call solution lines. I manage 2 solution lines and 6 products within those solution lines. We also have all those core products like Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Tableau, Slack, all of the things that you saw up there. There's also product marketing teams that work on those products. And then we also, within those teams, we have what we call industry marketing managers. So it could be someone working at Slack, for example, but they're working on creating go-to-market plans for public sector or healthcare. So there's multiple different ways. And again, I recognize my coworker Lee is here and we were talking, we don't even know how many PMMs we actually have because they're spread all over. Our team here, my nonprofit global team, there's about 16 of us. And then 4 of them are in EMEA. The rest are all here in the States.